Squire of Hell. By Troy Maverick. Chapter 11. POV Greed. Sergeyvan Bido. Later that evening. Worrying about trivial BS had no place in my mind. Seriously, I was sick of it. I'd already done that for years, before my brother Pride and I had trapped dear old Daddy's soul in the sub-depths where he belonged. But Dara's escape was getting to me. It was like an annoying itch I couldn't scratch. Sure, it made perfect sense for her to flee to her country, Lithuania, but I'd been searching for months, and my special mage pet hadn't shown up yet. What's crazier than that was how Lust's capital had been completely obliterated, yet we kept running into resistance along her borders. Where were those damn demon girls coming from? And why hadn't they been eradicated already? Ugh, we should have already taken Lithuania. Why the fuck was this taking so goddamn long?
Oh, I don't know, maybe because some of your men keep coming back dead, or fucked. Or both.
My wisecracking wife Yelena said as we walked down the corridor of my castle coming from the dinner hall. Her elegant and accented voice may have been smooth, but her words were like knives running down my back. Her silky blonde hair wafted over her shoulders as we approached the dungeon, and the skirt to her black curve-hugging dress sashayed with her full rounded hips. Yelena gave me an inquisitive look with those sanguine eyes, and continued to prosecute me.
Unless, you're ready to tell me I'm wrong?
No, but it's nothing I want to hear. I scoffed, while my just-as-human-looking vampire wife gave me a sly grin.
Well, if I don't say anything to you, you'll never hear it. Your men fear you, and they won't be as overeager to call you out on your faults.
And what faults are those?
Current dear, your predisposition is like a curse. Your greed is making you careless. It allowed Dara to escape, and now the portals have been sealed. What we are doing isn't looking for her, so that we can extend our demons on Earth, and secure our dominion over Rello Hell. Instead, what we are doing is terrorizing Lithuanians, while erasing potential tracks to her.
Damn it, I could already hear what you're proposing, and I'm against it.
Someone from Lithuania has to know where she is. If you offer those Lithuanians something they cannot refuse, they will give you the information that you desire.
I'm not coughing up anything to pests. They deserve nothing from me.
Then think of it as something temporary. A peace offering with an expiration date. I know it would be hard on you, my love, but the longer we wait, the worse it is for us. Shedding their blood clearly isn't working. Try my approach, and I guarantee we will get somewhere.
Giving them freedom? A safe haven from the war? Was I really that desperate to find this girl? I should say yes, because it was I who taught her Earthrealm portal warping. I had the knowledge, after tucking my head where it didn't belong. Father's secret vault made good work for me, before I made good work out of him. Luckily, Dara had a special talent with sorcery, and she came in handy at a perfect time. And I didn't want my enemies using her craft against me. If they ask me for their goddess back, I'm slashing their heads, I retorted, and Yelena chuckled. I dropped my shoulders down with a sigh and crossed my arms over my chest. Who ever heard of the god of greed giving? It's ludicrous.
Mull it over at a later time. Rafa is waiting for us in the sub-arena.
That was right, my imp wife, along with my eager audience, were waiting for me in the dungeon arena. And I should be getting ready to indulge myself with something more entertaining, the primal games. 2 demons in the ring, 1 demon out. My guards had caught 2 Lithuanian spies on my turf, and for the past couple of days I'd ordered to have those girls beaten and starved. I would make them pay the price for trying to save their pathetic goddess Lust. Tonight, the caged event would debut both of them, where they'd get the utmost pleasure of fighting for their lives with their mana on reserve. A well-deserved punishment for trying to snoop down my halls if you asked me. The primal games wasn't a tradition I practiced on the regular, because you had to have been a special type of stupid to invade greed's very own adobe. Nevertheless, the moxie on those warrior women had me grinning ear to ear. It was a rare treat, a treat that gave the House of Greed something to look forward to tonight. And they couldn't start the fun without me.
What took you 2 so long?
Rafa retorted as we stepped into the dungeon, the crowd getting rowdier when I reached the king's skybox. I ignored them, my eyes preoccupied with my 2-foot-tall wife flying toward us rather than the stadium below me. Rafa had a purple outfit on, a bikini top and a skirt mostly, to complement her short lavender hair. You could say that the color was her favorite, and it matched her devil horns, bat wings, and pointed tail perfectly. She approached us with a sour look already on her face, that pout making my fun-sized wife look even more appetizing.
We were talking about his lost pet.
Yelena answered with sarcasm sprinkled on her shrewd voice.
Oh, you mean that fragile Athenian sorceress? Or should I call her your concubine?
Rafa mocked, then took her seat on my left shoulder.
Pfft, good riddance. I preferred her dead, but beggars can't be choosers.
Free-spirited and feisty. Apparently, I had to add jealousy to Rafa's personality also. I brushed my finger along her small cheek, making her purr. Rafa, don't tell me you've gotten yourself bitten by the jealousy bug?
Can't you tell? It's going around, getting your wives sick,
she said sarcastically. Yelena shrugged.
You call her your pet, yet you'd spent the most time with her down in the chamber. Concocting who knows what.
You know what? I snickered. Geez, Yelena, not you too.
Admit it, god of greed, you were in love with Dera.
If preparing my army for the raid on Earth means loving Dera, then fuck, I'm obsessed. She gasped playfully.
Oh? Obsessed? Are you sure you don't mean infatuated?
Always sassy, this one, I said, then gave Yelena a kiss on her perfectly shaped lips. I promise, when time permits, I'll give you the all of me you crave. I hated to admit it, but my wife was right. I had been preoccupied with my army lately. But honestly, I hadn't been avoiding them on purpose, the urge to have my defense and offense sharp in this war on the very top of my priority list. It was for the nation, couldn't they see that? And my wives fell under that nation. Really, I shouldn't expect Rafa and Yelena to understand any of that. From their perspective, I would always be a raging workaholic, tending to my council, sending my men out to work and expand my land. It wasn't easy, even though my council helped regulate a few political affairs when they could. But everything else fell on yours truly. And if I made the wrong move, I could bring a few opportunists to my doorstep.
Lord Curran,
A bass voice greeted me at the front of the double doors to the king's skybox, the 7-foot hooded giant bowing before me.
we are ready to proceed when you are.
I gave him a toothy grin. Excellent! The space was massive from where I was standing. For a system underground, it was well lit, where I could see my Baidoyans already jumping for the anticipated match. There was a sub-square in the middle for the two contestants, while the top elevations of the square contained rows and benches for sitting. And tonight those seats were filled, the screams and cheers catching the arena as I drew closer to the audience in my skybox. I was the host of the hour, tending to my people with my arms sprawled out, inviting all of their love and affection. I was given a booming introduction from the band, the loud air frothing with musk, blood, and sweat. A strong god was what they needed, and a strong god was what they got. And they worshipped me generously, knowing that I'd take the throne of Relohel, a throne that I so rightfully deserved. Evening, proud house of greed! I present to you, the primal games. I resonated, and confetti showered the ring. We have been given this perfect opportunity. 2 enemy spies had trespassed into my home. And it's about ripe time we made them pay for it, don't you think? My voice stretched out into the crowd, getting their juices flowing. Let's show these girls the power of greed. Let's show the entirety of Relohel that we are a force to be feared. Baido stands strong. The power of greed conquers all. Baido! 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 My greed heads cheered along, with their fists pumping in the air. A loud gong broke into the wave of shouting voices, prompting everyone, along with myself, to take their seats. I joined my wives, sitting between Yelena and Rafa, who was already munching on roasted kiwi on a stick from the caterer's wheeled banquet tray. The doors to the arena below opened on cue, and 2 men escorted 2 red girls with ram horns on the sandy turf. They looked dirty, their once cream-white tunics tacked with grime and mud. The taller, thinner one had long dark blue hair with eyes just as dark and serious. The younger one looked like her frail blonde sister, and had a shapelier figure. Both of them were bound with metal cuffs around their wrists behind their backs, until they reached the center of the stage, where the hooded and masked men released them. You 2 already know the rules, I reminded them. 2 men in, 1 man out. More like 2 women torn. When that blonde one turned around to face her sister, I noticed how raw and red her back was with lashes, some still fresh and bleeding. She had my fresh sand already stamped with blood, making that smile on me grow wider. The older one paced on a limp, her left leg bruised, and her chest glistening with sweat.
Please, my lord,
the younger one begged, her scratchy voice already biting at my ears. She approached the edge of the ring where I sat above it behind an enforced glass shield, with her hands folded over her head.
I beg you. Please pardon us. We have been punished enough.
Unless you both want to die here tonight, I suggest you get on with the fight. My baritone threatened, the tone of my voice making her move backwards. I bit her a hard glare. While her sister was already prepared to fight, she tore through the bottom of her dingy tunic, using the 2-inch wide piece of fabric to wrap her knuckles.
Gani? What are you doing?
The blonde one kneeled.
I am not prepared to die here.
She wept.
I am sorry, Mill.
Please, Gani, we don't have to.
Whoosh. The first assault was dealt, more like a distraction actually. Gani triggered her reserve mana, showing all of us her elemental powers. But the gust of wind from her maneuvering hands was barely strong enough to catch much sand off its trajectory. She was weakened from the torture and it showed, reduced to cheap tactics to get a win. She flashed some sand into her sister's eyes. Mill winced and fell back. Once Mill tossed her head aside from the shower of sand, Gani followed with a firm punch in her face. That hook shot twisted her body, Gani obviously stronger than her younger sister. Such savagery. Gani didn't hold back, and continued beating up on Mill, taking her knee into her gut. In no time at all, Gani was capitalizing, with little offense or defense from Mill. The crowd was cheering, the promised bloodshed leaking out from Mill. A solid minute of abuse had passed before she finally made her first move, stepping back with staggered feet to register Gani's unbreakable momentum. Mill came in with heat, and a battle cry that forced Gani to retaliate. Dodge, tuck, and a sweep kick into her head. Gani went down, her back colliding with the hot sand. Mill followed through and got a hold of her from behind. She pushed her arm against Gani's chest, trying to put her weight on her sister. But Gani kept Mill's grappling to a bare minimum, using her legs to ward Mill from completely submitting her. The crowd went wild when they went back and forth on that sand, the power struggle down there getting my Baidoyans excited.
Who would you put your money on?
My wife Rafa asked as she passed me the kiwi. I took one big bite into it, its crunchy skin snapping into my teeth. I studied Mill's formation. Mill might have had the power of will, but Gani had technique and stamina. Even so. Mill. Yelena snickered.
Mill? Are we watching the same fight?
You know that strength doesn't guarantee a win, right?
You said that like you actually meant it. I say Gani.
I snickered. Is that so?
Don't believe me? Well then, how about we make it interesting? If Gani wins, then…
She stopped, moving closer to my ear in a whisper. My face, it heated up, my lips fighting back a wide mischievous grin. She pulled back, lounging against her seat, looking at me for a reaction. I took my finger to my chin, leaning my elbow on the armrest. And if I win? I asked, my raunchy eyes flirting with her.
If you win.
She paused, her eyes rolling up, my wife thinking of a reward.
Then we can fetch the slug.
One?
Just one.
Make it two. I need to savor the moment. She sighed.
All right, deal.
Rafa giggled.
That's repulsive.
I looked over my left shoulder and raised my eyebrows at her. Well, I'd be happy to show you just how repulsive it can get. But you're too small to get slugged.
And for that, I am very grateful.
She sang, nuzzling her side against my cheek. Our eyes went back to the match, right on time to watch Mill bursting with energy after Gani managed to peel her off from on top of her. She tapped into her reserve big time, casting a fireball spell to snipe Gani with. She was desperate, and that move cost her the remaining energy she had, the girl barely able to get up after Gani used her wind to redirect it upward. Those weak bones of hers could barely stand her arms straight as she hacked up blood, Mill crouching over after running out of steam.
You didn't.
Gani said, Mill kneeling right at her feet.
You used life force to compensate for mana.
You left me no choice.
Mill cried.
How can you strike me like that? I'm your sister, Gani.
Gani winced, trying not to break into tears.
We are warriors.
She cried out.
And we fight for our goddess. No matter what. It is how we were trained. And if there's a chance that one of us could bring her back, then we should take it.
My wife tossed me a side glance, confirming her win.
Do you really think greed would allow us that opportunity? Please tell me that you aren't that gullible, Gani.
Mill said, with tears streaking down her hot cheeks.
One of us gets to leave, and it's going to be me, Mill. I'm sorry.
It was nearing her time, the match was about to end.
Gani.
Mill whimpered, looking up to her sister with watery eyes. And then she accepted her fate, tucking her chin in her chest, waiting for Geni's summoned fireball in her hand to roast her. The crowd bounced on their feet, but I was in a sour mood. I wasn't going to get my slug time tonight. I rolled my eyes, then turned to the ring below, where I noticed the change of events. What a pathetic sight, Geni sparing her sister. Instead of ending her life, she walked over to look up at me, with a request that had me raising my eyebrow up.
We are done.
She boldly asserted.
We aren't going to continue being entertainment for your sick and convoluted pleasure. If you are going to kill us, then come down here and do it your damn self.
Oh shit. This one's still got some fight in her. The boos started to roll in from the crowd, demons tossing their garbage at the brave-mouthed Lithenian woman. Even her sister Mill was shocked, looking over her shoulder at her older sister. Ladies and gentlemen, don't fret. We will have ourselves a winner. My loud voice echoed as I stood up in front of my throne. And once the crowd settled, my arms gradually fell to my sides, my eyes growing huge on Geni. You have earned yourself a reward for your bravery, lucky you.
Yes,
she said, her voice trembling.
The freedom you promised us.
Freedom through death isn't really much of a reward though, is it? Don't you feel selfish for dragging your sister into this?
She doesn't deserve this living hell.
Hey, you're right. I snapped my fingers, and on cue, those doors to the ring opened again, the sound of barking filling up the arena.
Gan.
What is this?
Geni panted, looking over to those three vicious full-grown demon Rottweilers dragging my ring masters into the circle. Big, jaw-snapping, monstrous-looking hounds. This fate is more fitting for her, isn't it? After all, my dogs haven't eaten in days.
Please, no.
Come on, you were going to kill her anyway, weren't you? Before you decided to chicken out and let me decide her fate.
You fucking bastard. You cowardly mistake of a son of Lucifer.
Geni barked at me, then rushed toward her wounded sister, hoping to fight off my dogs to save her. Well, she really couldn't make up her mind now, could she? 1 minute she wanted Mill dead, then the next, she was ready to slash a few hellhounds for her so she could survive. I figured I should go down there and help her solidify her win. So I shaped my fingers to summon a phase through. A narrow glowing portal opened up in front of me. I stepped through it, reappearing right behind Geni, and snatching my arm around her neck. I caught her off guard, nearly knocking the breath right out of her. She grabbed my strong arm around her throat, trying to pry my hold off of her. I could pop your head clean off, but I'd rather you watch your sister get devoured by my hell beasts. I whispered down her shoulder, then I reached my fingers over her eyelids, propping them up.
Stop this. Please stop.
No. Geni. After all, I'm just a cowardly mistake of a motherfucker. I'd rather not get my hands dirty. She begged and begged, but her wailing fell on deaf ears. We stood and watched as my beast chased Mill halfway down the ring on a limp. It was a sad sight really, but my audience loved it. Bit by bit, those large mud teeth sank into her flesh and tore her apart. They were having a buffet in her guts, cords of her intestines wedging between their hungry mouths. Their snouts were wet with her blood and chunks of flesh, and when Mill's screaming finally died down, Geni's did too. Finally, she was giving me a fucking headache. Head down to the bone. What selfish mutts. Must have gotten that from me. I taunted. Now you're the winner of my match, aren't you? The least I could do is give you something special for your troubles. How about we pay my dear sister a visit, shall we?